Okay, guys, does anybody need me to look at any of the graphs? I don't suspect there should be many questions because again, you have your calculator to check your work. So again, this is mostly just to determine if you understand. All right, guys, and this is a big part, all right, for if you're going to take a test, all right, going to private school, all right, all the quadratics, all this information here is super important. All right. Yes, sir. Let's take a quick look at 18 now. Yeah, so here again, we would say the axis symmetry is x equals negative b, which is 10 over 2, which is 5. Thank you. So then the vertex then would be 5 comma what? That's what I got. 5 comma 5. Anybody have a problem with that? And then the y-intercept is 0 comma 30. Well, obviously I'm not going to plot the point 0 comma 30, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over to 5, 5. And please listen carefully now. All right, here's how being smart, all right, is helpful because we know that the a value is what? What's a? 1, right? So that's not affecting really the stretch. All right, there is no stretch. That means from the vertex, if you go over 1, you should be going what? Over 1 what? Up 1. And then left 1 would be what? Up 1. All right, because a is 1. All right. Now, if you plug in 1, 1 squared is what? 1. So that's why it's over 1 and up 1. Just like if I went over 2, I should go up what? Up how many? You guys now are making me nervous now because you act like you're not sure. I said if you go over 2, you go up how many? 4. Why do we go up 4? 2 squared is 4. Why did we go up 1? 1 squared is 1. Exactly. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4 puts the dot here. Count over to the x symmetry 2 over 2. And there is your graph without having to go all the way to 30. All right, so I feel like that hopefully answered some questions here. Anybody else? All right, would like me to do one? Anybody? Go. Let's look at 17 real quick. All right, so this is the vertex form. That's why it's a little bit different here. All right, your vertex is going to be what? -4 comma 7. Perfect. X symmetry then would just be x equals -4. Beautiful. You have a horizontal shift what? Yep, left 4, and your vertical shift is up 7, and we have a stretch by a factor of -6 if you want. All right, the negative just indicates that it's going down. So everybody goes to -4, 7, plot that point. There's -4, 7. Now, what's the a value? What's a? -6. So that means if I go to the right 1, normally I would go up 1. But you're multiplying that value by what? -6. So 1 times -6 is, so that means you're going to the right 1 and down what? And down 6. All right, that's what you're trying to show me. And if I wanted to go to the right 2, I would be going what? Come on. If I go to the right 2, normally I'd be going what? Up 4, but this time I'm going down. No. Down how many? 24, whoever said that. Thank you. Why am I going down 24? Because you're simply multiplying 4 by what? -6. All right. Hopefully everybody is okay with that. Anybody have any issues with that now? Anybody have any issues? Yes, sir.
I like where you're giving it vertex. Like the sees the number inside of it, it's always just blue.
Yeah, because good observation. So if you're asking me that, then I want you to write this down. Y equals A parentheses X minus H squared plus K. You with me on that? That's why the H is opposite, because inside this is negative H. And I told you that the vertex was H comma K. So you're supposed to recognize, say, okay, these are opposites of each other. But the K is what? The K is not. All right, hopefully that makes sense. Anybody else would like me to check out a graph? All right, hopefully you took the time to just graph it on the calculator, double check your work, make sure you're okay. All right, anybody? All right, here we go. Nothing else, guys? All right, hopefully you are doing a good job. All right, so I want everybody to try number 24. Factor 24 real quick. If you can do factoring 24, I made that one kind of hard. If you can factor that and solve it, then you're in pretty good shape. All right, but go ahead while I shut the door. See what they're doing out there.
Yes, I've been.
Hey, this trend, the gym is like, they're having trouble with speakers. It's like, no one's in the gym. It's allowed. Oh, okay, all right. 6x squared plus 29x plus 28. Come on. You guys sitting there, all right? You're not supposed to look at it and see, you're supposed to figure it out. Put the two sets of parentheses. You're breaking up 6, you're breaking up 28, you're trying to find the combination of numbers that make 29. There's no mystery here. No mystery whatsoever. All right, let's go. Here we go. Two sets of parentheses. How are we going to break 6x squared down? I would just start out with 3x and 2x. And then 28. What do we got? 7 and what? 4, 2 and 14. You don't have many options, right? I always said, remember, go for the middle options, or for the middle factors. Can 4 go on the right? No, because they would have a common factor with 2. 4 cannot go on the right. So 4 must go where? On the left. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the only place it can be. Can you hear it out there?
Yeah.
No, I don't care. I wasn't sure if someone knew. I thought it was getting ready to blow up or something. Right. So, I mean, we're protected because we have concrete blocks, so we have nothing to fear, but. All right, then we put a 7 there. And now remember, we do the smiley faces. How much is that? How much is that? Come on, guys, that was not that hard. Some of you sitting there like, it wasn't that hard. All right, you got to try. All right. Now they both have to be what? They both have to be positive because we want 29. We agree? Now, because we are brilliant, we just look at this and say X then must have been what? -4/3, or X must have been -7/2. Now, does everybody recall why that is so? because after you factor, you set the factors equal to 0. So you would say 3x plus 4 equals 0, 2x plus 7 equals 0. And of course, there is no explanation for solving those. Anybody have any questions with that? All right, so let me see if there's anything else more challenging. All right, 23. That's embarrassingly easy, but let's go ahead and see if remember that. Everybody should be able to look at that and just say the answer is what? Yes, x is plus or minus 4. Now, if you want, there's several ways. You can just add 16 and take the square root, or we can factor, like someone said, x plus 4, x minus 4. And then from there, you end up with x is equal to plus or minus 4. Everybody's good with that? All right, I'll leave the other two for you. All right, now let's do 28. We'll do the hard one here. Now remember, you isolate the square term. So does everybody know we have to do what first? Add 3 and then what? Divide by 3. Now, again, I'm writing x plus 2 squared equals what? 6. Anybody got a problem with that? How many solutions are there for every single quadratic? 2 solutions. That's how I remembered. When I take the square root, I cannot forget to do what? Put in a what? All right, so let's leave it this way. X plus 2 equals what? What does everybody forget to do? Remember, you have to add in the plus or minus. There's always 2 solutions. So you need the plus and the minus. Everybody good with that? And then your final answer is just to say x is equal to what? But traditionally, we just put the rational number before the irrational number. All right, so it's better to say -2 plus or minus square root of 6, but if you put it the other way, it's not a big deal. So those are the 2 solutions. Everybody agreeing with me on that? All right. I'm pretty confident in everything else. Let's break down this one, 26. I want to break down this one because I want to see if you remember how to break down square roots. So what does x squared equal, guys? Everybody happy with x squared equals 20? And then you would just say x is equal to, without putting much thought, you would just say plus or minus 2 radical 5. All right, I think we've done a lot of reviewing with radicals, so I feel like you should be a strength on that. Plus or minus 2 radical 5. Everybody's good? All right, now let's come over here and see what is next. Uh-oh, solve by using the quadratic formula. So do me a favor and write the quadratic formula right at the bottom. Let's see who remembers the quadratic formula. All right, quadratic formula. I'll give you a hint. It starts with x equals. Tell them.
Okay, so like x equals -b plus minus square root. And then there's like -4 and something.
Yeah.
2a.
What did he forget in front of the 4ac? Anybody? No one. Tell them, Walt.
B squared.
Yeah, don't be shy. B squared minus 4ac. That is the quadratic formula. That is the quadratic formula. All right, please write that down. -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Write that down now. -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so with that in mind, Number 35, can that factor? Can that factor? Yes. So would I encourage you to do that using the quadratic formula, or would I just say factor it? You should just factor it. All right, now if you're taking a test at Jesuit or wherever, and they say use the quadratic formula, my advice would be use the quadratic formula, but I have a feeling it doesn't matter. All right. So let's do 36. Now, how do we know that factored again? Because come on now, look up here, guys. Listen to what I'm saying. This times this is -8. Are there factors of -8 that can be -2? Yes. -4 times 2 is -8. -4 plus 2 is -2. That's how I knew it factored. All right. So if I look at 36, can that factor? No, because 1 times 2 is 2. Are there any factors of 2 that can equal -5? No. All right, that's how you know. All right, so let's do the quadratic formula for 36. All right, so everybody's going to write down x equals. Now, what's the opposite or -b? What's the opposite of b? 5 plus or minus. Now, I don't like to write down b squared. I just square b. -5 squared is what? 25 minus 4 times 1 times 2 all over what? 2. So now x equals 5 plus or minus the square root. What's 25 minus 8? 17 over 2. Come on, that wasn't that hard. All right, that is a must. That's on all tests. Quadratic formula. Anybody have any issues with the quadratic formula? Please review that. Okay, I feel pretty good about that. Okay, solve by completing the square. Solve by completing the square. All right. Now, last year in Algebra 1, I want to jump to this one because this one's the hard one. Last year, I only taught you how to do completing the square when the leading coefficient is a 1 and the middle term is even. All right, so let's review that. All right, when you solve by completing the square, you need it in Algebra 2 because you'll be learning about conics. All right, and the conics are just the ellipses, the hyperbolas, the parabolas, all right, and the circles. All right, you already know about 2 out of the 4, but you have 2 others. And in those cases, you have to use completing the square to get it into the right format. So in this case, you could do it by just using the quadratic formula, correct? So some of you guys, if you're like, man, all this information, there's no way I'm going to remember it all. I just want to remember the quadratic formula. If you remember the quadratic formula, you can answer all quadratics. That's something you need to hear what I just said. If you want, you can always use the quadratic formula and you will always get the right answer. All right. But there's just different techniques. All right. So when you complete the square, all right, remember the first step was to isolate, all right, by moving the constant to the right. So you're going to write down x squared plus 6x. We leave a space equals -2. Now, the object of completing the square is to make this right here a perfect square. All right, to make that a perfect square, we always say we take half of b and then we square it. What's half of b? What's 3 squared? So we add 9, then we add 9. That makes it now a perfect square. What do you mean? Well, I mean x squared plus 6x plus 9 now can be factored into something squared. And if you recall last year, I told you it will always factor to whatever the half was. What was the half of +6? We would say +3. So you would tell me that's just x plus 3 squared equals 7. Now you're right back to where we were when we were doing solving by taking the square root. All right, so now you just take the square root of both sides, and you can't forget to put down the what? What does everybody forget? Yeah, everybody forgets plus or minus. All right. So x plus 3 equals plus or minus square root of 7. And then I do what with the 3? Subtract. X equals -3 plus or minus the square root of 7. Come on, tell me.
Well, that's like, you have to like simplify the square root of this one.
Yeah, you always simplify the square roots. Always. All right. We don't ever leave it as square root of 40 or even if it's a perfect square root of 49, we just put down 7, right? You always simplify radicals. Okay, so now everybody's gonna do number 50 with me. And everybody's gonna put a star by number 50. Now, of course, the reason I'm asking you to put a star by this is because you probably won't be allowed to use a calculator, and then they're not going to put something this hard, so I don't really care. But all right, this is a good practice for your fractions. All right, now again, we're getting down to the wire, less than 3 weeks for me to help you. If you don't know something, just speak up. All right, speak up, especially fractions now. It's been a long time. All right, so you got to make sure you know how to do that. So in order to complete the square, the leading coefficient must be a 1. So that means right off the bat, I have to divide everything by what? 2. All right, so now we have x squared minus 7/2 x plus 1 equals 0. Anybody have any issues with that? All right, now I told you we move the constant over. So now we have x squared minus 7/2 x, leave a space, equals what? -1. Anybody have any issues? All right, now your understanding of fractions comes into play. What's half of 7/2? 7/4. Come on. Now you square 7/4. What's that? 49 over 16. So you're adding 49 over 16. You're adding 49 over 16. All right. Come on now. If you don't know how to do the fraction, if you don't know how to do half of something, or you forgot, because it's been a while, I don't mind. Anybody have any questions with that? All right, now I told you it always factors to whatever the half was. What was the half? Yeah, but specifically what type of 7/4? -7/4 squared. Equals. Now you have to tell me what's -1 plus 49 over 16. You are amazing. 33 over 16. Why? Because 1 is 16 over 16. All right. Anybody have any issues with that? Now I do what? Take the square root. X minus 7/4 equals, what does it equal? Plus or minus what? Square root of 33 over what? No. Over 4. It's over 4 because the square root of 16 is a perfect square. So the square root of 16 is what? 4. Everybody's okay with that? And now I do what to both sides? Add 7/4. So x is equal to what? 7 plus or minus square root of 33 all over what? Now notice I can combine the fractions because they have a common denominator, right? Notice I put the 7/4 in front of the square root. If you put it after, it's not a big deal, but traditionally you put the rational before the irrational. Okay, guys, that's as hard as it gets. All right, for solved by completing the square with a bunch of fractions involved. All right, if you were like, that's kind of easy, then I'm feeling good about that. All right. Was that the end, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so now it's up to you to get your practice in. Everybody knows how to do it. All right, now, before I turn you loose, all right, I'm giving you one last chance to say, well, I'm really not sure about this. Can you give me another example? All right, does anybody need me to give me another example of completing the square or quadratic formula, or factoring, or square roots. There's a lot of information here. A lot of information. Anybody need any more assistance? All right, please take the time, review. All right, I know we're getting also down to the wire for taking some of your Jesuit tests or academy test or whatever entrance exam. If you've been looking over the IXL and you're like, man, I forgot, you're able to come in the morning and say, remind me how to do this. All right. Anybody have any questions? All right, guys, please work. All right, get the work done. All right, tomorrow I'll be happy to help you.